let's work on the left hand for the first page of Adagio Sostenuto from Piano Concerto No. 2 by Rachmaninov. We're going to start with a series of chords, just like we did in the right hand. We'll start off with our left hand 5-finger on the C below middle C, and the 3-finger on E flat. This is a half note chord, and it's in 4/4 right now. Then let's go ahead and move to our thumb on F and our 4-finger on B flat. It's another half note chord, but just before the measure ends, our left hand pinky is going to play A flat for an 8th note. Then we're going to go back to half note chords. We're going to move our hand down just a little bit. The pinky will be on G, and the thumb is going to be on E flat. Then we can move pinky down to F, and we'll play C with our 2-finger. Then we're going to move down again. Pinky is going to be on E flat. This is 2 E flats below middle C. And our thumb will be on C. Now we're going to jump down quite a bit. We're going to play a G sharp octave chord. The top finger is playing a half note, but the bottom finger is only a quarter note. So after a beat, the bottom fingers will lift and will play an F sharp with your 2 or 3 finger, while still holding that G sharp in the thumb. Then we're going to stay on G sharp with the thumb for the next measure, and then our 3-finger will also play E. The top note, the G sharp, is a half note. The bottom note is just a quarter note, so after a beat, we'll let go of the E and go to 4-finger on D sharp. And then we're going to play C sharp octave. So our thumb will go up to C sharp, our pinky will go down to C sharp. And then we'll scooch both hands down half a step and play a B sharp octave. And then we'll finish out this first line by playing a whole note chord. Our thumb will be on B, and our 3 or 4-finger on the E below that. So all together, this is what the first line sounds like. And as far as dynamics go, we start off the line pianissimo, very quiet, a gradual crescendo until we're doing forte briefly in the 3rd measure. Then we go back to piano for the rest of the line. All right, now our right hand in the 2nd line is doing those triplets, and our left hand is going to do some sustained notes with a few notes to follow that are written as part of triplets. So if you want to count them, I'll give you a trick, but as long as you pay attention to where the change lines up with what the right hand is doing, you should be all right. So we're going to start off the 2nd line with, we're always going, for this whole line, we're going to have E on the bottom. This is 2 E's below middle C. We'll play it with our pinky. Okay? So those are whole notes. Every single measure has an E on the bottom for the entire measure. Now on the top, on this first measure, we're going to be playing a C sharp with our thumb along with the E below. And this top note is a half note that's tied to a note that's in a triplet. Now the triplets are made up of what's basically 8th notes, of course, the 3 8th notes in a triplet, fit into one beat. Now how are you going to count that? So the easiest way to count it is just to break it down to the shortest note, which is the quasi eighth note in the triplet. So if we have 3 of those per beat, and this is 4/4 with 4 beats per measure, we have a half note followed by a quarter note per se that's in a triplet, and then we have we're going to have a eighth note which is in the triplet tied to a quarter note which is not. So it can get a little tricky to think about counting. But let's say we're going to count as if everything by assigning the value of 1 to the shortest note, the quasi eighth note in the triplet. So for the first half note, if there's 3 of those eighth notes that fit into a beat, then we know in a half note there'll be 6. So we're going to count the first note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's also tied to that quarter note, which is in a triplet, so we'll count 1, 2 for that. We don't have to play it again. And then, right after that, the first we counted, let's see, 6, 7, 8 beats. Then we're going to change the top finger to a C natural. The bottom finger is still holding the E. Now the C natural is 1 for the eighth note that's in the triplet, tied to a regular quarter note, which we would count 1, 2, 3, because there's 3 quasi eighth notes for a triplet in each beat. So again, if we're going to count the whole thing, what our thumb is doing, here's how it would go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, change, 1, 1, 2, 3. That's how you'd count it. Now, second measure, something very similar. We always have the E on the bottom, but this one we're going to have our 2 finger playing B on the top. Again, it is a half note tied to the quarter note, which is in the triplet, and then we're going to change the note, and we'll have the eighth note tied to the quarter note. Okay, so I'm going to count it out while I play it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. That's how you'd count that. Now, the third measure, still the E on the bottom. We'll have our thumb on C sharp above. Now this is a little bit different as far as the tied notes in the thumb. We have a quarter note tied to an eighth note that's in a triplet. Then we have the note change, which is it's C sharp, which is the quarter note tied to the eighth note that's in a triplet. Then we have the change to C natural, which is the eighth note in a triplet tied to a quarter note in a triplet. And then we have another note change to 2 finger on B, which is an eighth note in the triplet tied to a quarter note that's not in a triplet. So here's how we'd count that one. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we'll see if that makes sense to you, or you can just pay attention to where the note change matches up to what you're doing in your right hand. We'll talk about that when we do the video of putting the hands together. Now for the third line. This time we're going to have another whole note that's going to be held for the whole measure. We're going to move up though. We're going to have our 5 finger playing the E below middle C. That gets held for the whole measure. Then after a beat and a half, we're going to add our thumb playing D sharp. And this D sharp is an eighth note tied to an eighth note. And that's 1 beat, right? And then we're going to be moving our thumb to D natural for our dotted quarter. Now how would you count that? Again, let's assign 1 beat to an eighth note. A little different because it's not in triplets this time. So we have 2 eighth notes to a beat, right? So if we're going to count, we have the E playing for a beat and a half. So it'll be like 1, 2, 1. Now we're going to add the D sharp. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So all together that adds up to 4 beats. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move on to the next measure. This one also has whole notes in it. It has the same E with your 5 finger. It has an A also that you can play with your 3 finger. And it also has your thumb playing C sharp. Now the top note is not a whole note, it's just a dotted half. So after 3 beats, you're going to change your thumb from C sharp to C. Then the next measure follows the same rhythmic pattern. You're going to be playing the E on the bottom still, G sharp with your 3 finger, those are both whole notes, and then your thumb will be playing B, which is a dotted half note. So after 3 beats, you'll move your thumb to D natural. Then we're going to move to the same sort of thing, still the E whole note played by your 5 finger. And then we have 2 half notes stacked on top of that. We can have your 2 finger playing A sharp and your thumb playing C sharp. So all together, after 2 beats, then you let go of those notes. Your thumb will play C natural and then B. Now here comes that 3-2 measure that you may remember from your right hand. We're going to now start off by playing an E octave. Your thumb will play the E below middle C, and your pinky will play the E below that. So half note, which in 3-2 of course is 1 beat. And then we're going to move our hand to the treble clef. Notice they sneak in a treble clef there. So our hand moves up. We're going to play a half note chord. Our pinky will be on the B just below middle C. Our 3 finger will be on E, and our thumb will be on G sharp. Play that together for a half note. Then we're going to play 2 half notes. The thumb will be on A above middle C. Then we can have 2 or 3 finger on D sharp. Those are both half notes. And then our 4 finger will also play C sharp. And the C sharp is only a dotted quarter. So while you're still holding the half note D sharp and A, you will let go of the C sharp and play an 8th note B, the very last half beat or whatever of the measure. Okay, so what does this whole line sound like? Let's play it. 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry. 1, 2. Okay, final line. We're going to have mostly half notes and quarter notes. This first measure is half note chord. We're still in treble clef, so we're going to have our 2 finger on B just below middle C, and our pinky on the E below that. So hold that for a half note. By the way, we're back in normal 4/4 time. There was only one measure of 3/2. Then we're going to move our hand up. We'll have our pinky on B sharp, which is the same thing as C. Then we'll have 2 finger on F sharp, thumb on G sharp. This is another half note chord. Then we go back to the B and E below middle C, another half note chord. Then we're going to do another half note chord. We're going to have pinky on B, 3 finger on D natural, and thumb on G sharp. Now we have another 3/2 measure. So we're going to start off with playing an A octave. Now this is a half note chord, but at the same time we're going to use our 2 finger to play a quarter note E. So we continue to hold the A octave while we let go of the E, and our 3 finger can play C sharp. Then we're going to move our hands down. We're going to play another half note chord. The 5 finger will be on the E below middle C, and the thumb will be on C sharp, which is middle C. Half note chord. Then we're going to move our hand. We're going to play our thumb on F natural and our 2 or 3 on D natural. Now, the bottom note, the D, is a half note. The top note, the F, is only a dotted quarter. So when the measure is almost up, you're going to let go of the F and play your 2 finger on E while still holding that D. Now, last measure, we're going to go back to the half note chord with our pinky on E below middle C and our thumb on C sharp. Then we'll move our hand up. We're going to have our pinky on A below middle C, our 3 finger on C sharp, and our thumb on G, another half note chord. So this whole line sounds like this. We're still in treble clef at the beginning of it, so we're going to be just below middle C. And then we have our B sharp, which remember is the same as C. Back to the same chord. Now we have this. And that's the first page.